Welcome to the show. Welcome to Your Thought Life podcast. I am your host, Michael Anderson. Today, we're diving into the topic of how I can stop overthinking hypothetical situations. Overthinking hypothetical situations is more than just an occasional worry for the vast majority of us. It's a mental pattern that can consume enormous amounts of cognitive energy and emotional resources. When we engage in this type of thinking, our brains essentially create elaborate fictional scenarios and then respond to them as if they were real thoughts or challenges that we're facing present time. This can be a really troublesome array of conditions. By thought alone, we have created a set of circumstances that can literally dominate our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And when this process activates, it's also turning on our stress response system, and it's literally flooding our body with cortisol and adrenaline, even though, again, the situation that is before us is one that we have manufactured through thought alone. You've heard me say this a couple of times before. I want to just share it again for context. The human brain has evolved to anticipate potential dangers and prepares for future challenges. And when this happens to us present day, it puts us in this topsy-turvy state where we're responding as if we're under the same environmental circumstances as our predecessors and ancestors, when in fact that's not the case. There is no danger in front of us whatsoever. In our modern world, this same mechanism is working against us, creating a vast amount of anxiety about situations that are only imaginative. They don't exist, family. We have manufactured them. There's research in the cognitive psychology that shows that approximately 85% of the things we worry about never actually happened. And of the remaining 15% that do occur, most people report handling them far better than they initially anticipated. Why? Because it wasn't that serious, if I can coin the term. Neuroscience is on our side, and I want to share with you a couple of nuggets before we get into the practical application that I think will be helpful. Overthinking hypothetical situations involves several key brain regions that are literally working in overdrive. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for the executive function and planning, becomes hyperactive as it attempts to solve problems that don't even exist. There could be the most minuscule thing that crosses its radar that you're not necessarily being conscious of at the moment, and it will just blow that thing out of proportion until the both of you are in just a really jacked up set of circumstances from a thought process perspective. And then guess what? Your body checks in and, whoa, you're really aroused. What's going on? Oh, I see what's going on. Let me see if I've got any memories to go with that. And by the time that whole process is done, you're an absolute wreck. And again, this is hypothetical thinking that has created this entire bodily state change and all the associated feelings and emotions. Now, the amygdala, our brain's alarm system, in these situations remain at a heightened state of alert. And it's interpreting these imagined scenarios as genuine threats that require immediate action and an immediate response. This can be a problem for us, especially if we find ourselves repetitively being engaged in this model. And unfortunately, the studies show that we more often than not do find ourselves in this situation. When we find ourselves in these very aroused and heightened states, we're in a state that researchers call anticipatory anxiety. And just as the term suggests, it is an anticipation of something that in this case has been manufactured that is creating for us a large amount of discomfort that is translating into anxiety. And I think it's important for us to understand that the mere possibility of a negative outcome triggers the same stress responses that would be triggered in the actual event. If it was something in front of us that was very dangerous, harmful, etc., by thought alone, hypothetical thinking alone, we're able to manufacture the exact same responses. There's a pro and a con to that. On the con side, where we are, it can create for us some very, very difficult circumstances. On the pro side, since we've now come to understand that the mind doesn't distinguish, nor does the subconscious, between a real event and a manufactured event, we can begin to rewrite some of these narratives that we've been living with in the form of stories, beliefs, and biases. We can begin to rewrite those, family, by simply changing how we feel about them, how we think about them, and what we say about them. And I think that brings us very neatly into our practical application. The first and most powerful technique for stopping hypothetical thinking is called grounding in the present moment. This involves deliberately redirecting your attention from imagined future scenarios to immediate sensory. So, when you notice your mind beginning to spiral into what if thinking, pause and identify 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. This is what we refer to as the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, which effectively interrupts the overthinking patterns and anchors you in reality. Another highly effective approach is the probability assessment method. What's this? It's incredibly cool. Let me tell you about it. When you catch yourself overthinking a hypothetical situation, ask yourself 3 specific questions. Number 1, what is the actual likelihood of this scenario occurring? Number 2, if it did, what concrete steps would I take to address it? And number 3, what evidence do I have that supports or contradicts this worry? This rational evaluation helps to transform vague anxiety into an actionable plan, or at the bare minimum, reveals the unfounded nature of our hypothetical concern. We are effectively challenging this thought to understand its merits and demerits. Family, these are 2 solid techniques that you can deploy right away to get yourself out of that ugly state of hypothetical thinking. And I would have you heighten your awareness to this. As you are developing resilience against hypothetical thinking, it requires that you consistently practice these techniques as well as mindfulness. And also remember that this is not a call for judgment. There needs to be a degree of self-compassion here. You didn't really even know you were doing this the way we've just defined it for you today. So there's no need for you to be irritable with yourself. Mindfulness and meditation, just 10 minutes a day in the morning to really get you grounded and focused on your day, I believe would serve you incredibly well to help you remain anchored in the day. In this 10-minute meditation that you do each morning, you're going to have a very specific purpose that you're going to outline for this day. A lot of times when we're doing all of this hypothetical thinking is because we've let our guard down. We haven't given the mind something to actively work on. By being real intentional and elevating your sense of awareness to what needs to occur today, visualizing it as part of your meditative morning routine, and sticking to that framework no matter what happens really helps you to cut down on this. And so when you're deploying these techniques, all of these come together as sort of a special sauce. But again, it doesn't really take form without the practice and the consistency. I trust that this has been helpful for you. It has been incredibly helpful for me just pulling this content together for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I most certainly appreciate you taking the time to listen. Feel free to connect with us through our Linktree link, and that's available in the show notes. I want you to remember that you are enough, you can do it, and you are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. Till next time, take care and keep pressing forward.